Christos Rождається. And welcome to the Ukrainian Hour. I'm your host, Colette Kirapita, and with me, as usual, is Father Basil Maloney from here in Yorkton, St. Mary's Parish.
Nice to be back.
Yes, good to see you.
Nice to meet you all.
Yes, I was thinking on the way here, I think you were here in about mid-December. So at that time we were talking about upcoming services, and now we're recording this at the beginning of January. So how were all your services? My goodness.
They actually went pretty well. I thought I would be more tired than I really was, but it went pretty well. Yeah, it went well. The turnout was very good. I was very happy with the turnout, with the amount of people in each place, and I plus the weather was unbelievable.
Yeah, the roads travel was very good. Yeah.
So I couldn't believe, how can this be winter,
Yes.
So
That's true.
no snow and stuff. But no, it went very, very well. And the first Christmas I've had in Yorkton. And obviously, because I couldn't do more than one liturgy, I only did the one in Yorkton. And we had a very nice turnout, over 200 people.
Oh,
So it was really good, and I actually, as I was talking to you before the podcast, I had my I took a week off after the Christmas celebrations, and then was with my son the week after that. And he's a very active boy, so I think I was more tired the week after Christmas than I was doing the services for that week. So no, it went very well. I'm very happy.
So I think I counted you had about 7 services.
7 in 3 days, yeah.
Yeah, and they were all over the place, like from Wadena to Calder as well. Yeah, so quite a spread, and 3 a day or whatever.
Yeah. It went very well.
Yeah, good. So I guess you're not well rested, but
it's been okay. I'm back at work now and preparing as we're recording this month of January. As many people know, we do the water blessing, the Jordan theophany blessing. So we're preparing for that. And I actually showed you this book, we got from church.
Yes.
So everyone in church will know this book that we're using for our services. Yeah. And this is probably one of my most favorite time of the year after Christmas, to go to bless homes and to get to meet the people a little bit. And especially this is my first year in this area to doing the water blessing. So I hope people are quite open to just the visits and the coffee, and just the water blessing itself, like the home blessing, takes 5 minutes. It's that socialization after, to getting to know the people, to getting to know the families, and this is the best time to talk. I had told people in every parish that I've been in that this is the best time to do those services, or to do the visits, because I'm here blessing your home anyway. So if you have something to talk about, something to share with me, if either whatever, it has to be, this is the time to do it. This is the once a year visit that I would come and visit the people at that time.
Well, and you get a real sense of what a family is like, by not just by looking at their house, but even meeting their extended family, or seeing them as a family together outside of the church.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And as a married priest, I know that what families go through. It's not all, joy. It's not. There's families go through things. So, it's not that. And people are always, you don't want to come because the house is too messy. You should see our house sometimes. Don't worry about things like that. I'm not there to do a critique of what you have in your house. What you don't have, it's just to visit. It's to, to have that friendly conversation, and this is what this is all about.
Well, and I think you of all people understand. It's not how much you have. You've got a big mansion of a house, or I have just maybe a little shack.
Exactly.
You definitely wouldn't hold that against anybody. Like, why would you? You know.
I've done both. I've done
Yeah.
big, huge houses that took me half hour to bless, and then I've done one room, like apartment kind of things.
Yeah,
like
right,
where
right.
the seniors live, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. That's your home.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. It is.
So no, this is a beautiful, and the prayers, like if people understood what the prayers actually meant, it's so powerful. We're reclaiming for the kingdom of God all this stuff on the earth, and especially your possessions, your home for God. This is what we're doing, and we're trying to get all the evil away from that place. We don't want any evil to be there, the evil spirits, the evil forces.
Well, and I know that some churches don't bless, water or other things, and might not understand where we're coming from. Can you talk a little bit about that history of blessing water, or the?
Well, it comes right from in the Bible, the Jesus being baptized by John, his cousin John, in the River Jordan. So this is where the history of it comes from, and this is where we got it from. So the whole service is based on the blessing of water. When Jesus being baptized, he blessed the entire world through his baptism, all the waters of the world, through his holiness, and John blessed them. And early on in the church, theophany, or what some people would call Epiphany, it was actually celebrated on the same day as Christmas. So they were celebrated together, but Epiphany, theophany was first. Yes. It was that manifestation of who Jesus is. We finally figured Jesus was presented to be divine at that very moment, the Son of God. Everyone understood this was his mission. And theophany is a very, very ancient holiday or feast day that we celebrate in our Eastern churches. And the blessing of water, this came from that. So they said, okay, well, this blessing that Jesus gave to us, we should be reenacting every year to bless it, to make things belong to God again. Everything belongs to God. So this showing that when the priest blesses the people and blesses their home, is this showing that, okay, this is God's.
Yeah, giving back to God what already is his. Yeah. Right. I'm very, very fascinated. On every year, I know I read this stuff, and every year I'm fascinated how this was all one feast. Yeah. Like Jesus' birth, his baptism, the coming of the Magi. Yeah. And in the West, they had a whole bunch of other things. And I think I read it was in the 2nd century that they started celebrating this theophany, this revelation of God. So all these times that Jesus shows himself to be divine. Yeah.
So Christmas came after, like you said, theophany was first. This feast of the baptism of Jesus, blessing of water, was the first celebrated before Christmas, and then Christmas was moved to the 25th of December. I remember exactly when, but it was quite a bit after that.
4th century,
I think it was something like that. So, this, people think, well, Christmas is all there is. No, Christmas and theophany are very much related together because, Jesus comes down. The nativity of Jesus is very important because obviously he has to come into the world to save us. But the theophany part of it was he was shown to be the Son of God, that this is who he is. This is his mission in life, to be our Savior.
Well, and then when you look at how, the Roman Catholic and a lot of other churches now, when they celebrate Epiphany, it's the coming of the Magi. Yeah. And that, I find that so fascinating.
And we do that one, I think it's sometimes like Christmas week, we celebrate that Feast of the Magi. So the Sunday after Christmas is St. Joseph, but I think it's a couple days after Christmas we celebrate the Magi.
Well, and even very much as part of, I know some of the stuff I read said that the Eastern Church, we moved Jesus's birth and the shepherds and the Magi to December 25th, which makes sense to me. Whereas in the Western Church, they just moved his birth.
Right.
And Well, and then later, I guess, they moved Jesus's baptism to like January 14th or something, or on
Yes.
Sunday.
Yes, so,
So, then Epiphany was for them,
yeah.
the coming of the Magi, whereas
Right.
for us, we kind of focused on Jesus's baptism.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
I
you're right
mean,
about
we
that.
did all do it
Yeah.
all together, all the same at one point.
Yeah, I think they're all very important. Like they're all parts of the history of the church of who Jesus was. The coming of the Magi, obviously, to show that it wasn't just the Jewish people that were part of Jesus' salvation. Everyone, these Magi, these Persians, these Easterners that were not Jewish at all, are still part of the salvation of the world, right? So he's for everyone. He's not just for the Jewish people anymore. It showed that right from their worshiping him, and that him being shown to them who he really was.
I have a extended family member who asked me one year, well, why do you do Jesus' baptism? Like, he wasn't baptized when he was a baby.
No.
I'm like,
No.
Because it's not a chronological
No. It doesn't matter.
feast. Yeah, it's a theological, very very
Exactly.
theological, like the whole history of it.
Yeah, right.
Jesus' divinity. you know.
Yes. And it was also, I'm actually doing a catechism lesson, I think, this week or next week about this, about how this is also the start of Jesus' ministry.
Yeah.
So he was, baptized at Theophany. And before that, it was the 40 days in the wilderness. He was preparing himself, fasting for this. Then he was baptized, and then he started his ministry. So this is all very, very interrelated, and he had to be baptized because this is what the Father, the Son, God the Father wanted to show the world that this is my beloved Son, and this is his role, and this is going to be his ministry in the next 3 years.
Well, and it struck me in the last few days, it kind of is chronological, because if you read in those Bibles, in the Gospels, kind of right after his birth, the next chapter is pretty much about John the Baptist.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
we don't have a lot
No.
written in between.
The couple of the gospel writers do, when he was 12 about that thing, or them going to Egypt, but not all of them do the same way. So some of them skip forward, like you said, to write to John the Baptist. And it's all about, what they wanted I think we talked about this one time about the gospel writers, what audience they were writing for,
Right.
So if they were writing for a Jewish audience, were they writing for the Roman audience, the Greek audience, depending what they were writing for. So they would have added or skipped different stories depending on who they were, the audience they were writing it this for.
Yeah, like if they're writing to Jews, they
Yeah.
would quote lots of what we call Old Testament.
Yes.
Say, here, this proves
Exactly.
that this was the Messiah we've been waiting for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then if they wanted, if the Romans didn't know all these past stories, they
Right.
wouldn't really make sense to have
Right.
those quotes in there. They just want to know, okay, who Jesus was and what's he doing? What did he do in this world?
Well, and it strikes me, too, that even though every gospel writer didn't write about Jesus' birth or the shepherds or the Magi, they all wrote about John the Baptist.
Yes,
Right within the first 1 or 2 or 3 chapters.
yes, he
So
was
he-
very important.
Yeah, like in our church, he's
The forerunner.
like the number one saint,
Yeah,
which is,
Yeah.
again, I find that fascinating.
yeah, and John the Baptist is very fascinating. I think we've talked about him too before, the locusts and honey, the diet. I think.
I
Did we
don't know.
talk?
I don't think so.
I thought we talked about that here once, about eating the locusts and honey.
I'm not sure if we did. Well, remind me in case we didn't.
Well, the whole being in the wilderness and growing up, and his father actually, we might have talked about this in one of the Virgin Mary feasts, because John the Baptist's father was the high priest who raised Mary in the temple area, right?
Yeah.
So he was the one that trained Mary to become to become the Theotokos, to become the Mother of God, trained her in the Jewish tradition, so she was ready when the time of the Annunciation came, that she was ready to become pregnant with Jesus. So they're all related. John the Baptist being Jesus's cousin, and their families are very, very much related that way.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I often don't think about that, but that's true.
So, anyways, when there's the story where after John the Baptist's birth, and then she had him and his mother had to go into hiding, and they killed his father in the temple area. I think Jesus even mentions that in one of the Gospels. That when he was talking to the Pharisees or whoever it was, that he was killed. Zechariah was killed between the two places in the temple or whatever. They stoned them or something. So John the Baptist went into hiding, and there's a legend somewhere. I'm not sure if you heard about that, where they went into the hills and disappeared into the hills because the soldiers were looking for them, and so the earth opened up kind of, and they were protected from the soldiers from that were looking for them. And then of course Elizabeth of course was quite aged already when she had John the Baptist, so it figures that she didn't when John the Baptist was already a teenager, she would have been near death, and then he would have been on his own after that and grew up in a wilderness. And this is what the gospel says, that he was in the wilderness eating locusts and honey and preparing the way for the Lord, so preparing for repentance, and that he knew that his cousin was going to come eventually to baptize with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, and we often don't think about those things. Yeah, you don't always put two and two together. And I mean, it was a small population. Even if they wouldn't have been related,
Exactly,
they would have known each other.
yeah.
Everybody knew everybody. I was reading something recently, though, about, like when Herod was going to kill all the
innocents,
kids
holy
2 and
innocents,
under.
yeah.
And that there is a tradition.
Yeah.
I think this was an Orthodox thing that I read, but it should be the same. There's that tradition that Elizabeth took little John, because he would have also been
under 2,
like 6 months older than Jesus, and went into the desert.
Right.
Yeah, so I was reading that recently.
Right. Yeah.
Makes sense, because and then I was thinking after, we don't actually know where. Well, I guess they were in Jerusalem because Zachariah was the high priest.
Yes, he was in Jerusalem.
Yeah, Bethlehem is only 2 miles or 2 kilometers?
5 miles.
Okay,
I think it is.
it's very close.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
And they did lots of walking in those days.
Yes, of
and they
course.
probably, which is probably, if you're in Bethlehem
Yeah,
anyway, you'd probably go to
yeah.
Jerusalem for the big feast days.
Yes,
You had to, I guess.
Absolutely, you would have been there.
And probably, maybe would have stayed with them. That's your relatives,
Exactly. So once a year, like every Jewish person usually had to go to the temple area to offer the sacrifice for the forgiveness of sins. That's why they would offer that animal sacrifice for the atonement. And this is what the high priest's job was. He was only to go into the inner temple area once a year to do that, to offer the atonement for the forgiveness of sins.
Well, actually, now I'm thinking too about Stritania. When
Yeah,
Jesus is
yeah.
40 days old, they go to the temple. Well, that was in Jerusalem.
Yes, so they had to go from where they were in Nazareth, so that would have
Yeah.
been quite a bit of a journey. But
They might have still been in Bethlehem, though.
yeah.
I always think that's like her 6
Yeah,
week
that's true.
checkup.
That's true, because they went to Nazareth after they came back from Egypt. That's right.
So,
So they would have been in Bethlehem. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're on your way anyway.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, exactly.
Be interesting to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, no, but all these celebrations are very much interrelated. So this is why when we celebrate Christmas and then Theophany comes a couple of weeks later, they're very interrelated. Absolutely.
Yeah, like you say, because the one came off of the
yeah,
other.
Right.
Well, and in our tradition, our Ukrainians call Theophany Little Christmas.
Yes,
I always say it should be the other way around.
Yeah.
December 25th should be Little Theophany, because it is.
No, that's a good way of putting it. I never thought of that before.
Because Theophany is a much greater feast. I mean, I guess they're both in the 12 great feasts, but Theophany is.
Yes, manifestation of Jesus. The whole Trinity was shown to be there. So they had Jesus obviously being baptized, and then the dove with the sign of the Holy Spirit, and God's voice was heard. God the Father's voice was heard. This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased. So listen to him. So this is the first time the Trinity was all shown to be together all at once.
And that's the main thing that we celebrate.
Yes.
Theophany.
Yeah. Although I did think, I think we talked about that once too. Was it the nativity of the icon that we I forget what we were talking about.
Could be, yeah.
About something about the Trinity being there, it's shown there too, or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it had the Holy Spirit and the rays of light, so I mean, the half circle of heaven, so
exactly.
It's implied. But I guess this is the first time when it,
right,
it was kind of right in their face. They could hear, they could see.
They can,
yeah,
that's right.
There was a fascinating icon, and a kid pointed this out to me. I was teaching catechism at St. Athanasius in Regina.
Okay.
And, well, it was actually a little relative of mine, a far-off relative. And he was looking at this icon of, Jesus standing in the water, and John the Baptist is baptizing him. And he says, oh, look, the fish are bowing to him.
Oh.
And I never noticed that, because some of them,
all nature,
in some of the icons, they are kind of curved towards him. And now every time I see that, I always look for these fish.
Yes,
bowing.
that is very true. I think I learned about that icon you're talking about. Yes.
But this was a kid. That, like, I don't know what he was, 5 maybe?
He's bowing.
Yeah.
All nature bows to God. Yeah.
That reminds me of another tradition we have. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, where they actually go out in the ice and cut an altar out of the ice. I've only seen that once, but I guess in Ukraine they did that. Like every church, I guess, would have done that.
Well, when I was in the seminary in Ottawa, we did that every year. We went to the Ottawa River. We cut an ice block cross out of ice, and then we did our service at the Ottawa River. And even minus 40.
Yes. Well, and I only did that once in Alberta at that. If you ever go to Edmonton, there's that Ukrainian village.
Yes.
And they have 3 churches there.
Right.
And the church that did this had been, what was the bishop's name at that time? Bishop Greshchik.
Oh, yes.
That was the church he grew up on in the farm, and they brought his church to this little, I guess it's a park, provincial park, I guess is what it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
And every year they would do that. And that some of the men told us that one year when they took that block of ice for the altar, there was a fish in it.
Oh, wow.
And I thought,
that's cool.
Yeah.
But we actually, what we did in Ottawa when I was in the seminary, there's that on the Quebec side across the river, there's the Museum of Civilization, and there's actually a church that's in there. I don't know if you ever knew that.
I've never been there.
So they put this old church from Alberta that they took all the way to Ottawa and reassembled it right inside the museum.
Like a Ukrainian church?
It's a Ukrainian Catholic church. It has a full church, but it's only the size of about the studio we're in right now. So can you imagine when all the seminarians, all the guests, 150 or 200 people standing in this space here, doing the service, and then going outside? Like, I was dying, like standing for 2.5 hours. Can you imagine? It was different. It was different.
Well, I guess Ukraine was a little warmer than what it was here, but so I still don't quite have this whole thing straight in my mind. If they had 2 water blessings, like did they do one in the church on the eve of Theophany, and then they did the river on the day of Theophany?
Yes, that's usually how it went.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And I guess it'd be, you try to get living water, so like a river.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't know if every church was built beside a river, or there's lots of rivers in Ukraine, or
probably like there's a lake or whatever, slough. I guess so.
I guess, or maybe you always, I suppose you would build your village by a river.
I actually had a friend that I knew in Regina once. I was a priest already, and he wanted to do this. So 2 years in a row, we did the water blessing outside. And he actually did the same thing. He cut out a cross out of the ice, and then the tradition is to go into the water afterwards. Especially the men. Yes.
Yeah.
So I didn't, because I was too afraid. I was getting a heart attack.
Yeah.
And he just dived right in with his friends, and I was like, oh my goodness.
So this was like
One,
Wascana or something.
no. This was at his place. We did it a couple places. We did it by
Oh, like a farmyard, you mean?
no, but where he lived by not Canolsi, somewhere by Fort Capel, and then also we did it once by Foam Lake.
Okay.
So he had a cousin there, so we did it twice. And it was interesting. It was like, oh my goodness, and it was very cold both times, very, very cold.
It makes me wonder if, here in Canada, we have
Yeah.
this January 1st tradition.
Yes.
Where people across the country
polar
will
bear-
dive into that water.
polar
I
bear
wonder if
hunt,
they
yeah.
didn't get that from
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
Or if that
exactly.
wasn't some very ancient European.
Yeah, but yeah, I haven't planned it for this year, but maybe for next couple of years, if anyone wants to do outdoor service with the Alpha Dam game.
We should have done it this year because it's warmer.
Yeah, exactly.
Next year it'll
there
be
you go.
40 below.
York Lake. So next year, plan for York Lake. Someone has a cabin there, and it's 40 below. Cut some ice for me, and let's do a service in our park.
Good spirit, probably.
Yeah.
Probably have some parishioners.
Yes, for sure. There you go.
Or white sand church.
Yeah, for sure.
Close there.
Yeah, I should. I'll talk to some of them for next year. Let's do a theophany service outside. And I actually have the video of the first one I did with my friend. I'll have to show it to you privately after, but it's funny. It's funny. He's just like right in there. I was like, oh my! It's
That part I would definitely skip.
It was a good minus 35 with the wind chill that day.
Oh. See, and I don't remember, like I said, that one service I was to in
Yeah.
Alberta. I don't remember
Yeah.
anybody doing that, but I mean, I think the bishop was
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
it was
yeah,
cold.
Yeah.
And,
But that is a funny tradition. Like we never did that seminary. We didn't, once we just wanted to go home, and once everything was done and everything. But yeah, to
But
jump
yet,
into
you
the
think
river.
in places like, Sweden,
Oh,
Switzerland,
yeah.
you go in your hot tub.
Yeah,
and
then
you
go outside,
in the
yeah.
sauna, and then, you go roll around in the
Yeah,
snow. Like,
exactly.
I mean, you can do that in Moose Jaw here, too.
For sure. Oh, yeah. And there's places in Saskatchewan we could do that for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, this year, you're right. We should have started this year. We had that tradition, and it was a bit warm, and
Yes, and then people would say, "Oh yeah, that was nice."
Yes, let's do it again this year. Minus 40. That's right. Well, that was good. But I don't even know if there's any ice on the lakes now because
I'd be a little afraid because there's been a few people that have gone through. I guess.
Yeah. No, that wouldn't be a good thing.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, back to the theology of it. It's it's very interesting about the whole Jesus blessing all the waters through his baptism and purifying our earth, and this is why a lot of people are thinking, well, why do we have to do it every year? And I'm like, well, one priest told me a while ago when I was a younger priest, I asked him the same question. People are saying, why do we have to do this every year? And he goes, well, don't they want their houses free of sin every year? Do they think that they haven't sinned this year in their house, in their rooms, or what?
And don't we celebrate Christmas every
Exactly.
year? Are they going to skip it one year? Oh, we did that last year. Really, when you think of it, or birthdays.
Yes, right.
Yeah. I think our whole lives, especially here where we have 4 seasons, everything we do once a year,
And especially if there's young families involved, the children can be involved. They can hold a candle. They can lead me around the rooms, whatever rooms they want me to bless.
Yeah.
It's so nice when they do that.
We used to love that. Like I remember as kids, because I grew up in Yorkton, so we had, and actually in those days we had a lot of priests here, the Redemptorists.
Yes.
So they did everybody's house.
Exactly.
They had a list, and they would go every evening. And and it was almost house to house, like maybe every third or fourth house belonged to our parish.
Exactly.
And we would look forward to it. So always, the youngest, once my brothers were old enough, they would carry the candle and they, go from room to room and. Yeah.
No, I hope that people are open to that this year. And again, since COVID, it's been really difficult. Once COVID started, it was like. When I was in Ituna and other places, it was almost non-existent after that.
Yeah.
So.
But I think some things are coming back. Like even, we had this New Year's Eve gala at St. Mary's recently. Well, as we're speaking, it was just this last weekend.
And we're having a theophany and the supper again afterwards. So that'll be nice.
I don't know if they had last year.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think people they appreciate more what we used to have.
Exactly.
And kind of some things people stopped going to But those that are comfortable out in public, like
Yeah.
the Christmas concerts, my goodness, they were all beautiful. Like it was so nice to,
Absolutely.
and appreciating, being able to see your extended family and everybody. I hope people are enjoying and appreciating it more.
Yeah, I agree with you with that because again, I've mentioned this in other broadcasts we've done. In the my mother's day or my grandparents' days, the church was also a social setting. So you go to church to meet other people, to have a meal together, to have, a couple drinks together, whatever it may be, just to have that social time because you're working as hard as you can be 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And that Sunday is that time where you can say, okay, I can relax today. I can see my friends. I can play a little, cards, whatever you want to do. And just do have that social setting. And maybe this is what we need again in our communities because we are so stressed from our work. Yeah. We're so stressed from family, whatever it may happen, with financial things, whatever, COVID things, wars everywhere. We need this to sit back a little bit and say, okay, maybe we can just visit with our friends at a church setting, have a liturgy, have a social gathering afterwards, and just be nice.
Yeah, so you mentioned it'll be gone by the time this airs. But this coming Friday is the eve of the Theophany, so you're having a special service, and then we're gathering for a potluck dinner.
Yeah, the blessing of water is always one of my favorite services because it's the prayers that the symbolism of it. The Holy Spirit is coming upon that water, and then you blessing the whole church with that water, then going to people's houses afterwards with that water to bless their homes. And yes, people say, well, we could bless our own homes. Sure, you could during COVID.
Yes.
I did. I remember doing it online where I did that special service. Everyone could watch me bless the water together, and then everyone comes to church and there's a sealed bottle. Everyone takes it home, whatever. That's fine, but we're not in COVID anymore, so we don't have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's other ways to protect ourselves.
Exactly.
Physically, if you need
to. Right.
But,
so no, I really enjoy that tradition and the whole blessing of water and the meal afterwards or whatever, and then going to people's homes and people are like, I don't know. Sometimes if. You, of course, grew up around clergy. I grew up around clergy, so we always had clergy in our homes. It doesn't matter. Like you said, blessing of homes every year. I had clergy come every week, every month in our homes, So I was always around clergy. But maybe there's that sense where people are not comfortable anymore, or they're just thinking, well, what are we going to feed them? I would never forget that. Forget that. My mom would always feed these redemptorist priests that would come to the grotto in Rama every year, and she was the only one that would ever feed them, And all after 10 years of this, some other church ladies, well, what do you feed them? And my mother says, food. What do you think they eat? They eat like you and me. They eat everything you and I eat. What do you think I feed them?
That's true. Well, my Baba was the one who had everybody over. Yeah, she always had the priest over almost every Sunday.
Exactly.
She knew how to.
It's not like we have if we have dietary concerns or whatever, you ask us. Yeah, exactly.
And nowadays, I think people are so much more aware of that. They'll say,
exactly.
Are you allergic to whatever?
Exactly. No, so it was just the Ukrainian foods my mother would always make for them, and they were happy. They had a meal.
Well, and that's true. Actually, not that long ago, we had when Bishop Michael just became our bishop. He wanted to come to every church, and he came to Jedburgh Church at that time. And we thought, well, somebody has to have. Oh my God! Well, if nobody wants, I will.
Yeah, sure.
And I was just a young mom, and whatever. But
for sure.
Just. Says, well, let's just do something. We've got to have something. And
Bishop Michael,
I had family and neighbors saying, well, how can you do that? What are you going to do?
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just send them away. When somebody comes, give them food.
He's so funny at times because I've known him for years. Before I was even a priest, I've known Bishop Michael, and there's one conversation we had where we were talking about the same thing about visiting people either during the theophany time or whatever time during the year. And he was one of the parishes. He was a priest in Manitoba one year. He was talking. He didn't even. He just dropped in at someone. He was driving by. He's like, oh, let's drop in and say hi, whatever. And it was right during supper time. And they were like, oh, Bishop, well, all we're having is hot dogs. Oh, hot dogs. I haven't had hot dogs in so long. Oh, good.
That's true. Well, and actually, as teenagers, we were my sister and I, at least, were in UCY, the Ukrainian Catholic Youth Club.
I remember that place.
So Father Len Ratushniak was, very big into it. And he would come to our house. It was bedtime for us. We went to bed early. So he would come over for coffee at 10 o'clock at night. Sure. We would go to bed and Mom and Dad would have to visit with him. But he was one that I think people at that time got used to that because he just did that. He would just show up at your house.
And that's the thing, like maybe that we've gotten away from that. And as a priest in this big area, I love to do that. It's just that I'm always, preoccupied with this or that. And I need to, this is the theophany time of the year, as I'm saying to people, invite me, the water blessing, cup of coffee. You don't have to feed me a gourmet meal. I'm not asking for shrimp and lobster. I'm just saying, have a, cup of coffee, a little dainty, whatever it may be. And just something to keep me going, and that's fine.
Well, and that might be something to remind our audience, because I know you're not going to say it yourself, but there was a tradition that when the priest comes to your parish, somebody in the parish should have the priest over. Whether it is for a meal or for coffee or something. But we've really gotten away. I know Father Kushko used to try and, said that most of the parishes here did that, except for the one I was attending. But that, it's a common courtesy.
It's a busy life. Everyone's so busy these days. So
well, we are, but most of us either go out for brunch or have a meal after church anyway.
I have to say, though, that most of the places, again, not everyone, like you said, it's sometimes, but a lot of them have done that for me. So they have been very hospitable, especially if it's only, once in a while parish that I go to. That's not every week parish. That's a little different. But if it's just like a once a year or once or whatever it may be, or once a month, they're usually pretty hospitable to me. So,
well, and in case you guys don't know, if you're doing a parish meal or something, especially a once a year, and you have a meal, you should not be charging the priest either. And actually, our former cantor told me you're not supposed to charge cantor either, but that's debatable.
The cantor's next to the priest is the second in command, basically. Vice.
Not so much anymore, but it used to be anyway. But it's, it's a special guest.
It's just being, Ukrainians are known to be hospitable, so that I think we have to get back to that. I think, this. When I was a priest in some of the places in the past, talking about theophany, blessing of water and blessing of homes. And I remember one of the places I was at when I was a young priest, and I would have these home blessings, throughout the week or weekend or whatever. I remember it was a Saturday, so I had 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, blessings. Every one of them gave me a full breakfast.
Oh, no.
I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't do this anymore. I can't do it.
You don't want to offend anybody.
Exactly.
So.
But it wasn't just dainties and coffee. It was eggs, bacon, toast. I'm like, okay. How much more can I eat of this, really? But no, they're talking about being hospitable. It's like, you're priests and are human. They have to eat. They have to... They need nourishment, and they go from place to place and long hours driving. So, people have to realize that, they think, well, we pay them so they could do themselves, but it's just being a hospitable part.
Yeah, and I'm thinking even us as a choir here, we go out as a group, who wants to go out by themselves.
Exactly.
Exactly. And I'm thinking, even if you compare it to, say, a school system or a hospital system, if your big boss was coming over, wouldn't you have coffee and a cake or something?
Exactly.
Even if it isn't a special occasion.
But like I said, I think it's just maybe the older generation knows this, but it's the younger generation that's maybe losing this aspect. But again, it depends. It's not always the case. And it's up to me also. Maybe I have to be like, like Bishop Michael was, or other bishops, to say, okay, I'm coming to your place. I don't care what you have, I'm just coming there and just sitting there for half hour and just, visiting.
Yeah. Well, and I suppose too, people our age are working.
Yeah.
Both the mums and the dads.
Yes,
whereas,
for sure.
The former generation, the moms were at home.
I totally get it. Being a married priest myself, and the busyness of being, both parents working and, the child in school, and you get home and all these activities and you're eating in a rush and trying to get everywhere. And I get it. I get it. But it's not like that every day, come on. It's you gotta take some time just to, to socialize.
Yes,
Yeah.
and you need to socialize too.
Exactly.
And how are you gonna, if you don't get to know the people in
Exactly.
your new parish, how are you gonna socialize?
Exactly. This is why the blessing of homes is the best time and then the year to do that, is to get to know people.
Sure.
And also during the grave blessings, it's another time when I do all the graves. That's another beautiful time to get to know the communities.
Although that's more as a group, the whole parish.
That's true. But usually one or two of them take me, and I know some of the ones I've been doing for years, the whole community goes to someone's house and then have a meal together, kind of thing. The smaller, not the huge graveyards, but the smaller ones for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. It's good. And what was I going to say about that? It's especially, as I said earlier, when you get the kids involved, if you have young kids, they just love it. The show the priest. Like my own son, when we had someone over the other day, and he wants to show them everything. This is what I drew. This is what I drew. This is what okay. But my son is very social, so he loves to talk to people, adults all the time. So.
Well, and I think as people get to know you, they will see that advantage to being a married priest with a child. You understand family life. So hopefully, people will be comfortable talking to you.
And not just understand the good part. I understand the struggling parts of family life as well. So
and there is a difference. I mean, not that one is greater than the other, but you can certainly relate.
No, I'm very open. Like I said, there are some people that have in my new parish already have been very social and want to go for coffee or whatever. That's fine. But again, it's about their personalities as well.
Yes,
not everyone's
I
like
was thinking that too. Right.
Not everyone is going to be that open and want to be socialized. Some people are, some people aren't. I'm kind of in the middle now because I grew up very shy, but now over the years, I'm around people all the time. So,
so you learn how to function in it, even if you need your your alone time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. It's part of your job.
Like we have,
we've had different priests like that too. Like I say, like the Father Len was the extreme where he'd just stop in, and then some priests we had in the past that just weren't really comfortable around people. They were okay with the service, but maybe not reaching out.
Some people or some priests are more comfortable with different age groups or whatever.
Yes,
I'm a high school teacher by trade, so but I've been teaching in elementary schools, even kindergarten, pre-K. My son's that age, and it's just like, okay, so I'm getting comfortable with all age groups. That's what I'm doing.
And then I found too, as our parents age, then we get better with the seniors and that too.
Yes.
So then you end up being able to relate to all ages well.
But like I said, some priests are good with children. Some priests, have difficulties. They're like, it's like, okay, I don't know what to say, I don't know what to do.
Well, and you're a teacher, plus you're a dad, so there's a
exactly
there for sure.
But like I said, when the families gather together for the house blessing, and one of the things I'm not sure people know about the whole service, about the house blessing, is that traditionally you also have a list of the names of the deceased family members.
I did not know that either.
Yeah, and that it's almost like a little Panachetta service at the end. Not quite the whole Panachetta, but just a couple of of prayers for the deceased that you could do at the end. And that's one thing that you can do to remember all the family who was there at what time or lived there before and stuff like that. That's really interesting.
That makes sense. You know, the
Yeah.
more I read about our Christmas traditions, that
Yes.
importance of the ancestors
Yes.
that
Yes.
went to pre-Christian times,
Yes.
you know.
The whole Christmas tradition of leaving a empty, seat. Even,
Yes, leave an empty chair for
mhm.
loved ones that have deceased. And even, that didu, you have the
Yes.
spirit,
Exactly.
grandfather's spirit, I guess it would
Exactly.
translate as.
Yes.
There's the sheaf of wheat in the corner of
Yes.
the room.
Yes. Yeah, all those traditions are very related to our church still, And I know we've talked about this in one of our broadcasts about how the social norms and religion get together. So how you use the cultural norms, use the
much,
culture that you live in, or become part of your religious tradition.
Yeah, and very much happened in
Yeah.
our, in the whole
Yeah.
Eastern
Yeah.
Church.
For
but
sure.
we certainly can see that in our Ukrainian church.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when every year I read a little bit about our Christmas meal, which we have the same meal for Theophany.
Right.
But yeah, just the meanings of those foods and that those
Yes.
were pre-Christian.
Yes, they were.
And agricultural and
Yeah.
kind of they were the basic foods that people ate. I mean,
yeah.
although the wheat, I guess we only do it once a year.
Yeah.
But, and I guess some of those foods we do have often, borscht and pierogies and
that's-
cabbage rolls we eat like all the
That's
time now.
Ukrainian. It's the Ukrainian foods for sure.
But something very sacred about that evening. And like I said, my mother-in-law still does the old calendar and would still refer to this as Little Christmas.
Yeah.
And we'd have that meal, maybe not the complete meal, but a lot of those same foods that we had at Christmas Eve, we'd have on Theophany Eve.
And it's the same meaning of those foods, like whatever I can't remember. There's people that have these, Facebook posts or whatever that the meaning of each of the foods. And again, I'm not an expert in that, so I'm certainly not an expert in Ukrainian history of what those foods meant and but I think we talked about that once. This is what they had. They had the garden produce. This is what they ate. They made the pierogies, or in the shape of the half moon or whatever. That kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Or we talked last time too about the dried mushrooms.
Yes,
because what would you do to get in December or January?
Right.
They didn't have freezers like we did, and they didn't have grocery stores. So
And the wheat and the honey and all that stuff. Like I said, by that time there had been traders. Like you could trade something for something. You don't have to go and get honey from the hive or whatever. You can just trade for someone who has honey already.
Like if your farmer neighbor maybe has bees, and then maybe you have whatever
beets.
beets. There you go.
There you go.
That's true.
Yeah.
Huh.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that actually reminds me of something else. We're talking about community and about, that's kind of like a community thing too. So when we have these foods together, that shows that everyone depends on one another for these kind of foods that they need to get from one another too. So this is the community talking aspect as well.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's for sure. I love this time of year. I love every time of year, but it's just because I think I've said in one of these programs once that when I'm doing my calendar for the year, it's not necessarily what people say the monthly calendar. I think as a priest, so I think, okay, what feast day is coming up, and then what do I have to do after that feast day? How do I prepare for that feast day? So I think in terms of feast days during the year, that's how I do my calendar. So I'm always thinking ahead. Okay, what's coming up? Lent's coming up, Easter's coming up, whatever may be. So that's how priests usually think. So this is their priest way of thinking. So we're always preparing a few months ahead of what's coming up in the liturgical calendar.
And I was thinking that too, because even by the time this show airs, we're probably going to be almost in pre-Lent, because Easter is really early this year. It's at the end of March. I can
So
remember
those,
the date, but
so we'll be doing those pre-Lenten Gospels about repentance. So that would be something to talk about maybe that time too. Sure.
yeah, even though we keep singing Christmas carols
Yeah.
until February 1st, but we're already
Yeah.
overlapping with these.
Although some priests have told me that really Christmas is only 10-day or no, for a 7-day
Yeah.
post feast. But I don't mind singing Christmas carols all the way till the end. It's nice because if this isn't caroling and blessing of water, I always try to put together. So I always do a carol when we bless water because it's I think it's still the Christmas season, and they're so intertwined. And even though liturgically there is no post feast of Christmas after the 31st, we still it's fine with me. You just go all the way till like you said till February 2nd, the presentation of the Lord. And I think this is a beautiful tradition for us Ukrainians. Like I said, the house blessing, the caroling, that's beautiful. This brings some joy to the world.
Well, and I think too, because I've read this before and I read it again this year, how much the Christmas and Theophany are patterned on Easter.
Yes.
And I've said to people, we wouldn't sing Christos Voskras during Lent. We don't sing Christ is risen, even though we know he is.
Right.
We sing for 40
days
days after.
Exactly.
So it makes sense that,
So we should really be having our Christmas parties now.
Yes, exactly. And there are some people in the secular world that do that because they say December's so busy. And I mean, they start doing November already.
Right.
But when you think of it, we have the 40-day of fasting before Christmas and Easter.
Right.
And then we sing those hymns or carols for 40 days.
Absolutely.
And then we really celebrate.
You're totally right. And again, with the secular world, I know that there's church organizations that want to do all their Christmas parties beforehand, and I understand that, but maybe we can convince some of them to do it after in January, before during Theophany season even, and it takes time to educate everyone.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's education. Well, and I think it's okay that we're a little bit different than other places. I don't know if we were talking about this or,
but
it was my.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, on Christmas Eve, we have this meatless, dairyless meal, and I think a lot of the world has turkey.
Yeah.
Which we would, oh my gosh, we would never have turkey on Christmas Eve. Like, that's meat.
That's exactly. Probably, I know who you're talking, for sure. I have, my in-laws and different nationalities that definitely don't have that same tradition, for sure.
Yeah.
And
that's okay. And I think it's nice to share ours with the world too. Instead of adopting the world's, let's share our tradition. And I think our society is getting better at sharing cultures,
Although our meals might be healthier in some ways because, instead of the steak or whatever, we're having vegetables and this, non-dairy because whatever, but that's fine. Yeah. Except the pierogies are probably not that healthy.
Although, you know what, even when I've read the packaging in the store, and they're not that bad. It's the stuff we put on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you're following the true tradition and not putting mushroom sauce, just putting mushrooms, and onions, you can still make it taste good.
I had a thought now. I forgot about it. I think someone's going to say.
You're getting like me.
About the whole Theophany tradition and meals and stuff. Oh, yeah. So having the meals after Christmas or the parties after Christmas. But even in the school system, I'm doing a lot of the Christmas liturgies now after January. So
they've learned that too.
Right.
And they've been told keep up your tree until Father comes to bless your school.
Exactly. So, that's good.
Yeah, we were talking about that around the staff rooms too. I think I mentioned that last time. People are very anxious to get their trees down, but I keep
what?
mine up quite
Yeah.
a while, and I know my friend, she keeps hers up till February 1st.
Yeah,
That's the day she
we do
takes it
too.
down.
We didn't. My wife and I and Samuel didn't even put it up until the 24th. So
Yeah, like we put ours up pretty late. Well, I was having company on the 23rd, so I think
Yeah.
we put it up on the 22nd.
or maybe it was the 23rd. Yeah, so it was pretty close to Christmas already. Yeah.
And that's kind of what
Yeah.
my immediate household has always done.
Yeah. Right.
You know, kind of
Yeah.
waited till the kids were available,
Yeah.
and
Oh, it's all about education. You know, the more people that do it, and if we learn this tradition, the young families that do this and keep those traditions going, this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
and I think that's the thing about traditions. It's education.
Yes,
We got to understand,
absolutely.
why do we do what we do? You know.
There's a joke about that. I forgot that something about the tradition. I'll have to say it next time. I'll forget about it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few.
But why we do the things they do. Yeah.
Well, and that's the same, you know, whether it's our folksy traditions, like the meal, which is outside of the church, or whether it's the things we're doing in church, you know, like we need to understand why we're doing those things. And then when they're meaningful, like they're really beautiful.
Yeah. You know, and I don't know, when our ancestors came to Canada from the Ukraine and stuff, and you know, a lot of them didn't know how to read and write, so they just learned it from watching, observing, and then passing it on through word of mouth. And sometimes I wish that, you know, someone would have written these things down, because some of those things we have been lost, you know, about why they make things a certain way or do things a certain way. I'm sure that we can find it now online and stuff about all the different traditions, but I know, like, sometimes when you're growing up and thinking, well, why did, you know, you're doing this a certain way, or the foods that because even different parts of Ukraine, like we said, had different food groups for the 12 courses, because that's what they had on hand, you know. So
Yeah. Even something like borscht, my
Yeah.
family just made, you know, it was beet soup.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law's family did with the
The
little, what is it called, zube?
Oh,
The-
yeah.
The
Yeah,
little teeny pierogies.
Yeah, I know
I know
those
with the
are.
sisters,
Yeah.
they put mushrooms in there.
Yes,
but my
I've heard
mother-in-law's
that.
family did with fish.
Yes. Oh,
And
fish.
yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
different.
like salmon or whatever,
Yeah,
like
okay.
canned salmon.
Okay.
And that's what their family thinks, well, everybody does this. I'm like, well, no, they don't.
Oh yeah, like borscht has so many different recipes, and some put potatoes or whatever. I've heard that before too. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess my
yeah,
recipe book
yeah,
says
yeah.
potatoes. I don't care for them, probably just because that's not what I grew up
Yeah,
with.
yeah, for sure.
I think it's why, like every funeral I go to, and Baba made the best pierogies. Yeah, I says, everybody's Baba did.
Well,
It's whatever you
absolutely.
grew up
No,
with.
but yeah, going back, I guess what we started with today, and the whole beautiful traditions of the water blessing and Christmas, how they tie it, intertwined together. So the whole January, I've always, as a priest, kept the Christmas up to February 2nd, the caroling, the blessing of homes, and there's, like you said, 40 days after 40 days of fasting. Now we could do 40 days of feasting.
That's what I always quote myself. I think that's true. Yeah. Well, and even just this morning, as I was reading through some of the prayers for Vespers and Matins for this time between these two feasts, they do intertwine, and they'll say,
Yes.
you know, at the first feast we had the angels and shepherds. Now at this feast we have John the Baptist, and
Yeah.
it's neat how the
Well,
church tied them together
We
as
don't.
well.
Yeah, we probably don't have time to talk about this too much, but just very briefly, even the complines that we do, that prayer service we do before the liturgy for both Christmas and Theophany, has this Nama Boch, God is with us, both of them, because that's, you're seeing God in both occasions.
Yeah, and that's our whole. I've been saying lots. It's not all about baby Jesus.
Yes,
it's that God is with us. so.
Exactly.
Well, I think we're just about out of time here, but thank you again so much for your insights and your celebration and joy of this time of the year. And I hope that has been passed on to our audience.
And those that are watching, you know, invite me to your homes during Theophany.
Yep, that's right. That's
The whole
right.
January
Anytime.
up until, any time of the year, but
Yeah.
usually from January to beginning of February.
Yeah, good time to celebrate. Okay, and I'm sure we'll see you again on the
Oh,
show
for sure.
in the near future.
For sure.
Thank you again, and Christos Rождається.
Savitya.
And take care, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye-bye.